Imagine waking up, no signal, no Wi-Fi, nothing. The internet's gone overnight, and all 5.56 billion users cut off cold. Welcome to What If Tomorrow. I'm Philip, and with my co-host Mark, we are your chaos guides. Picture us sobbing over our routers, but stick around. Today we're diving into the meltdown, the mess, and how to prep when the digital world blinks out. Let's go. Welcome to the What If Tomorrow podcast. I'm Philip.
And I'm Mark.
Sorry, I had to clear my throat there for a second.
That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, allergies are going strong right now, man. Mine are for sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, tonight we're trying something a little bit different. We're actually kind of organized somewhat. We'll see how it goes.
Don't anybody have a heart attack. Right. If you do start having palpitations, call 911.
Right. Yeah, man, tonight we're looking at something different. We're kind of doing a speculation, which may not be far from the truth. We are looking at, what if the internet disappeared overnight? We haven't done an episode about this, in the nearly 5 years of doing the show. And all transparency, we've been kind of messing with AI. We've talked about AI quite a bit. And we figured, let's try it. Let's see what it does. So this was actually recommended by Grok, the X AI. And if you're on X or whatever, not following over there, do us a favor, go follow us on X over on the What If Tomorrow, and there's an On the Fringe X as well.
Yes.
I've really become pretty. I've been using it a lot more than I have Facebook or anything else. There's some pretty good threads on there. So yeah, go over and follow us on X. Obviously, the Facebook media or the What If Tomorrow media page and the What If Tomorrow podcast group. Haven't been too active over there. We're trying to get better with it. And obviously on YouTube, if you're listening and you want to watch us live, this is the best place to catch us is on YouTube. We stream there every week with the What If Tomorrow podcast and On the Fringe, Mark and Jess and Pam do. Yeah, so go join us over there. We'll help us grow our channel, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You know the drill with that. But yeah, tonight we're going to kind of do a deep dive and just kind of look at what would happen if the internet vanished, if it shut down. Now, Mark and I, in our youth, we know what it's like to not have internet.
Yeah.
We know what it's like. But I guess my question is do we remember what it's like? Would we remember what it's like?
It was peaceful.
Absolutely it was. You didn't have online arguments and all that. If you had a beef with somebody, you took it out in the backyard and duked it out, and you were best friends the next day,
Or you stole all their tires and left them up on blocks and hid the tires, behind Uncle Charlie's outhouse and left cryptic notes for them to follow to find their tires.
Right. But that was part of life, man. I mean, people were outside playing. I grew up outside playing. I'm sure you grew up outside playing. It's just that's the way it goes. I mean, that's what we did. We went outside. We did things. We didn't have near the connectivity. Right. Hi, Ian. How are you doing, sir? Welcome. I think this is the first time I've seen you on here, man. I'm glad to see you.
Remember the 24-foot cords on the phones that were mounted in the kitchen? You could go through almost the whole house dragging the cord.
Yep. Ian said the Encyclopedia Britannica is waiting, or they're waiting for the day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What happens? I think it's worth considering because it's so integral to society now. Everything relies on the internet, your cloud storage, all your pictures. How many people still have a camera that develops film? I don't.
More people than you think, because now it's the new trendy thing to have.
Oh, it's trendy now.
It's trendy, and you have to mail them in.
Yeah, because I mean, you had what the 24-hour or the 1 hour photo development studio, or you could take them to Walmart and have them develop. I mean, Walmart now's got the kiosk. You can go plug your phone in and print off whatever pictures you want. But is that almost a lost art? Photo development.
It is. It is.
So, I mean, it's just a question, something interesting I thought. But there's so many other ramifications from it. If the internet were to go down, today, I mean, there was a massive attack on X, massive cyber attack. They're saying it came from Ukraine. I mean, I'm sure that's got a lot of politics behind it. With everything that's going on with Doge and Elon Musk, people are protesting Tesla and like attacking people if they're driving a Tesla vehicle. I've seen video of that today. Pretty crazy, man. I mean, like, this is stupid because they're doing something you don't like. I'm not trying to get political on this show, really not, but it's dumb. But just imagine you wake up in the morning, your internet's gone. What would you do? What would you do, Mark?
Well, I don't know. I would probably just go to work like normal.
Right. Yeah, me too. I would.
I would be sad because my Kindle Unlimited would not be unlimiting for me.
Right. That's kind of the same way.
I would have to go to the library.
Right. I mean, I stream podcasts, at work and books and all that. I mean, I'd be like, it'd be almost like you forgot your phone.
No music.
Right. No music. But I mean, have you ever left your phone home on accident or whatever and went to work and you're like, oh, dang it.
Yeah. You feel lost all day. You're cutting in and out there, but Phil. I think we lost Phil. All right. Well, is anybody on there? Can they tell if Phil still? I think we done lost him. Well, so it looks like the internet has left Phil's house or my house, one of the two. I may be just here sitting here talking to myself. Yep, he's frozen. All right. So what if tomorrow Phil lost the internet? It looks like today's that day. So, I mean, everybody who's on here. Oh, there he goes. I bet he's resetting his router. People have become so dependent on the internet and on social media. I mean, I don't know how many people out there. I think he's back.
Oh, man.
Are you back?
Yeah, my internet quit.
I know. I've been talking about that. I said today is the day, right. At least at Phil's house.
Yep, my internet quit. I mean, that's one downside if they lost the internet. They wouldn't be able to hear us or see us.
Some people might think that that's an upside.
This is true. Yeah, Chris said she'd be lost without watching YouTube. How many people rely on YouTube?
Yeah, I was just getting ready to ask how many people fix their cars because of YouTube videos. Or their washer or what have you.
Right. And that's another thing is how many of our appliances now are connected to the internet?
There's a lot of people. Yeah. I got my electric company reads my meter from automatically now. So
yeah. So I mean, it's pretty crazy, but in the first few hours, I think people would just kind of go about their day as normal.
Thinking it's just an outage.
Right. But eventually, I think once people caught on, hey, if everybody's internet is out, they're going to realize, hey, this is not just an outage.
Right.
I don't know that there would be. I think there would be kind of a mass confusion. People trying to figure it out, because how many people's cars are connected to the internet now? I mean, I don't have it on my truck, but I can pay for internet service for my truck.
Right.
GPS, stuff like that. I don't know that.
What about workplaces?
Workplaces
emergency services.
Right.
The government is very dependent on the internet right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So many businesses with apps and stuff.
Right. And like I said, I know where we work.
We had an outage today that drove everybody nuts.
Yeah, we had one. We're fighting one last week. We lost everything because we do all of our work through the internet. I thought I lost Mark for a second. I was like, man, is it me?
No. I'm
okay. Would people panic?
Yeah.
Would people start panicking?
You can't do your job. You can't pay your bills.
Right.
I mean, we don't even have a checkbook, I don't think, anymore.
Yeah, I don't
pay everything online or over the phone.
Right. Ian said there's a fair argument to be made that many of the websites taken down by the Trump admin has or already is having a detrimental effect on health outcomes. That's a small part of the internet. I can't say one way or another, but I could see that being a possibility. I haven't done enough research into that to really make a judgment, so I'm not. But I could definitely see, hospitals, their records, I'm sure, are online. I don't know enough about the health sector.
They're required to keep paper copies, but they don't hardly use them.
Right. What about communication? Social media go down. How many people are addicted to social media?
FaceTime.
Right. All this stuff, man. It would blow your mind.
You know what? People might actually do their jobs.
Don't get your hopes up. On that note, I mean, I read something here a while back, and I may have mentioned on the show. Companies already figure in the percentage of people that are going to work mostly all day. They're going to get their job done. They're going to go home. Then they know a certain percentage of people are going to kind of work through the day, but not really get anything done. And then they've already got people figured, a certain percentage figured, people that aren't really even going to do their job. I mean, we see it day in, day out.
Every day.
But the stock market, I think the stock market would take a definite hit, not necessarily the first couple of days, but
I think there'd be a crash.
But eventually, I think it would. Once they caught on, I think they would. They'd probably close it first. I mean, which, when we've talked about economic collapse and all that. Chris said when Ascension was hacked last year, so many things, blood draws, med refills, etc., came to a halt until they figured out how to redo things. That's what I'm saying. We've become so reliant on it, and I don't know. I mean, like I said early on, you and we grew up in a world without it.
Right.
We saw the internet come online. I remember sending one of my first emails and all that.
Yeah.
AOL, dial up, all that good stuff, But I don't know, like my oldest son, he doesn't remember a time without internet. And he'll be 25 this year.
Right.
And I think people of our generation and before, I think would probably be okay. It is what I mean. Physically, probably mentally, probably be okay. But within the the first 24 hours, the immediate aftermath, you would start to see shipping issues,
Yeah.
supply shortages would follow. Warehouses, they'd be disrupted.
What about power generation and distribution?
Yeah, I think
You could have a worldwide blackout.
Yeah. What did Ian say? Ian said he should add, if a belligerent nation were to launch a hostile attack on what we call the West nowadays, one of their targets would be Amazon data centers for obvious reasons. I fully believe that. I've not looked into it, but I can't disagree with that. I mean, because it's strategic.
They just have to launch a nuke 250 miles
right
above the center of the country and wipe out most of the grid, all of the internet.
Right. And in doing the research on this, and frankly, we didn't do a lot like we ever do, but a lot of the stuff, the similarities that I am seeing is very similar to an EMP attack.
Yeah. You have a lot of the same issues.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the I don't know, the first 24 to 48 hours though. I mean,
yeah.
You'd have to really look. I mean, institutions, companies, hospitals, fire departments, emergency services, military, they would really have to dig deep and see how prepared they are for an internet outage. I mean, like when I was in the military, we had an intranet. We were all connected, and I think you could see a resurgence of that.
Most businesses do.
Right. I know we do, even though it relies on the internet. But I don't know if we could operate standalone just in our facility, because we're connected to the main office out of Wichita.
You'd see a lot of local networks.
Yeah. I guess depending on the permanence, we're not quite there yet, but you would see the economy definitely collapse.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's all digital now. There's no, how many
e-commerce?
Yeah, e-commerce is huge. You use it more than I do, but you shop online for Walmart and you go pick it up.
Yeah, we get our Walmart order online. Right. Amazon, Temu, eBay. Hell, I order my overalls online from the manufacturer. So, I wouldn't be able to go to key.com or Roundhouse to order my overalls. I might actually have to go to a store.
Right. You have to be social, or at least get out in the social climate, Mark.
I'd have to talk to people.
Well, you like talking to people, though. You'll be all right.
I have a limit.
Right. I get
After 20 minutes,
it's time to move on. Yeah.
It's time to move on.
Something I didn't find or didn't see. What would the government emergency measures be? Would be my thoughts. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I don't really know. I can look it up, I'm sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't rioting,
right?
And stuff like that. So, it might turn into the purge or something.
Right. Yeah, because people are so reliant. Like I said a little bit ago, how addicted are people to social media?
Oh, hell, I get all my TV off the internet.
Me too. Well, I've got an antenna, but a lot of that would go down.
We use streaming services.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Bitcoin would definitely crash, Ian.
For sure.
So,
Hold on, I'm looking this up
yeah.
to see what the government response would be.
Well, that's a good idea.
Wow, that's a lot.
So, get paper copies of all your favorite books.
Right. This says a global or nationwide internet blackout would trigger an immediate and escalating response from governments. The severity of the response would depend on the cause: cyber attack, solar flare, infrastructure failure, or deliberate shutdown. The first 24 to 48 hours, emergency communication activation. Governments would use radio, TV, emergency alerts like the emergency broadcast system in the U.S. Military and first responders would switch to backup communication networks like satellite phones or landlines. That's another thing. How many people have landlines? I think I read something like 30% of people still have landlines. I don't. I don't have
I don't. I stopped paying for it because I didn't use it.
Right. And the only reason I had it when we moved in here and switched over to our internet, the DSL internet, is because they required us to have a landline for internet. That's before we were online and all that. But I never plugged the phone in. I didn't even know my number. I didn't. Let's see. Local governments might rely on ham radio operators to relay critical information. And again, it's a lot like an EMP or solar flares. This says, I don't know that it's going to go to that extreme. Sure, there's going to be power issues. But you would think, and I'm speculating, but you would think that the power companies would have backups. You
would think, yes. Just an FYI, a ham license costs $35 with $15 for each time you take the test.
Yeah, I've thought about getting mine, but that means I got to buy a ham radio and all that stuff, and then I don't talk.
They're not expensive. Baofeng makes some pretty decent ones. You want to get better? Midland's good.
Right.
There's a lot of cheaper brands out there. I've been thinking about going GMRS.
Yeah, GRMS.
GRMS. Too many letters. I get dyslexic.
Yep. Let's see. Assessment and intelligence gathering. The cybersecurity agencies, CISA, NSA, Cyber Command would investigate whether the outage was caused by a cyber attack, infrastructure failure, natural event. Intelligence agencies would determine if foreign adversaries or terrorist groups were involved. Power grid and telecom companies would be called to assess the damage. And then law enforcement would increase patrols in urban areas to prevent riots, looting, or civil unrest. Because a lot of places, they don't need much of an excuse to riot.
No.
They just don't.
And like I said, these kids these days don't know how to even live without social media.
Right. They don't.
Just think of the number of suicides. But I can't get on my...
Right. Right. That's just the nature of where we're at.
It will be insane.
I believe it would. But that would be the kind of the government response of it. Where are we at here? We kind of touched on all that. The hospitals, the emergency response, they would have to figure something out. Because obviously they can't stop treating people. I think that, the question on the outline is, would people band together or descend into chaos? I think you'd have both.
I think the older generation would band together and the younger generation would just go nuts.
I think so. I think there would be some of the, I mean, I hate to generalize. You'd have outliers on both sides.
Right. Yeah.
The older generation, I think some of them would go nuts because a lot of them rely on the internet for communication to their families across the country or healthcare, things like that. And then you'd have
Life alert.
Yeah. Then you have the younger generations. Not all of them are connected to or rely on the internet like a lot of kids do nowadays. They'd be just fine, I think. And this is within the first 24 to 48 hours. I think once people realize that, hey, the internet is down nationwide, I don't know. I don't have the knowledge. If like I said, I have an antenna, but it's digital. So I don't know if that would affect it or not. Because it's not analog like it used to be. Even most emergency services are all digital.
Right.
So I don't know how much of an effect. I guess I can ask. Would if I can spell.
I have got enough walkie-talkies in here to get a walkie-talkie to everybody I know here in town that I would actually want to talk to.
Hold on. Let me rephrase that.
So, yeah, I think it's really something that people ought to think about because it could happen, and you could have a CME that shut down the internet without necessarily shutting down the rest of the grid.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these electronics are super fragile electrically.
Yeah.
So I could see the main grid surviving with the internet either being partially or totally disabled. Now, a lot of these data centers are protected from EMP and CME because if you had a business like that, you would be absolutely idiotic if you didn't. A lot of the government, because the last Trump administration directed all the government agencies to work on hardening their networks and grids for EMP and CMEs. So a lot of those are protected. A lot of the military stuff's protected.
Yeah. Ian posted, he said, interesting, there's been a recent glut of Russian and China connected ships disrupting communication cables in the Baltic Sea, arguably Cold War 2.0. And yes, I think we are right now. Even Putin himself said that World War III would be fought with ones and zeros, and we've been in it for a while. I truly believe, but that's where it's at. And if it did come from Ukraine, people got mad or whatever. That's all it would really take is somebody that knows what they're doing to knock out the grid or knock it down. I looked up. I asked if digital communication is reliant on the internet, and it says no, not all digital communication. Communication that requires the internet is email and messaging apps, which we've talked about, social media, online forums, we've pretty much talked about, video calls. But one thing we haven't was cloud-based communication. Let's see, Google Drive, Microsoft Teams, Slack. Those would be knocked out. Digital communications are ham radios, CB radio. They're all good. GMRS, FRS radios like that. So I think our emergency services will probably be okay. Just looking at that. let's see, digital that can work with the internet. There's even more. Military emergency satellites, offline digital messaging system, mesh networks, local intranet networks. We've talked about those. Encrypted USB or SD card messaging, landlines, analog phones. And text messages, SMS can still work with that the internet as long as cell towers are operational.
All right. Well, that's good.
Like apps like iMessage or WhatsApp require the internet, but text, SMS messages don't. That's kind
okay.
of cool.
So regular phone would probably be all right too.
Right, you would think. The way it sounds anyway. Where are we at here? Going back to the outline. Jesse, be proud of us. We have an outline.
I know, right?
Let's see. Let's look at long term. If it stays out for, if it just goes away forever, let's just run that down. The digital economy would collapse. We touched on that. Businesses that rely on the cloud servers, cryptocurrency, we've touched on that. Digital wallets, fintech. I don't know what fintech is. Do you know what fintech is?
I have no clue.
Man, we're learning here tonight.
Amazon would be gone.
Yep.
All your streaming services, billions and billions and billions of dollars of revenue would just disappear.
For sure. And I truly believe it would just disappear because...
And all the money in those accounts. Ooh,
Yep.
What happens to the money in your bank?
Yeah. Is it in a cloud server?
Yeah.
Because it's all numbers.
Yeah. They're just shuffling numbers a lot of times.
Right.
There's no physical currency a lot of times it moves. It's all digital. So, that would definitely make sure the digital dollar never works.
Right. Fintech is financial technology. I've just never heard it called that. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, online banking, neobanks, contactless payment, Apple Pay, Google Pay, crypto, investment, wealth management, robo-advisors, commission-free trading, Robinhood, E-Trade, AI-powered financial analytics, lending and credit, InsurTech, insurance technology, online insurance platforms, AI-driven risk assessment. So, yeah, that would all go away. Let's see. And obviously,
either that or the Cylons will take over.
Right. Which I don't think we're far from it.
No.
Let's see. Well, I don't know, Ian. Ian asked what happens to the digital tractors responsible for food production.
Depends on whether they're connected to the grid, to the internet.
Right. I don't know that GPS is connected. I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
I don't think it is. I mean, a lot of the apps use the internet to help with that, but I think that would a lot of that would be okay.
Yeah, GPS wouldn't go down. It wouldn't go down immediately. There are some GPS-based services that would be affected. Let's see. GPS satellites, they do not require the internet. I mean, what would stop working on the internet would be like Google Maps, Apple Maps, ride-sharing food delivery apps. Oh, man, no Uber, no Lyft, no DoorDash. Location sharing services, live weather overlays on GPS maps, cloud-based GPS tracking. Could GPS be affected in an internet blackout? If the cause of the internet blackout is severe, example, cyber attack, solar flare, or infrastructure sabotage, GPS could also be at risk. Well, we know with an EMP or a solar flare for sure.
Yeah.
GPS will be affected. We've seen it. We've seen it happen. Ground stations that maintain the update GPS satellites are compromised. Accuracy could degrade. Here's one. All alternative navigation methods like old school maps and compasses would be crucial for long-term outages.
How many of these kids can read a map? I mean, I would like to see some of these kids navigate with nothing but a dashboard boat compass.
Right.
Remember those in the cars?
Yep.
The boat compasses on the dash and a paper map from a gas station.
Right. Yeah. Can you even get maps at gas stations anymore?
Probably, but you'd probably have to ask for them.
Oh, yeah. And would they be up to date?
Yeah, if you were on the interstate and stopped at one of the truck stops, I'll bet you money that paper maps are available.
Yeah, probably. But then again, you have to have the knowledge to read them.
Yeah. Yeah. Your cyber trucks and all that stuff would probably stop working.
Okay, Ian, here's answer to your question about what would happen to digital tractors. Modern digital tractors, especially those used in precision agriculture, rely heavily on internet-connected systems, GPS, and software updates. If the internet suddenly vanished, some functions would still work while others could fail or become unreliable. Basic driving and manual operation. Farmers could still manually operate tractors as long as they don't require an internet connection to start. I've never heard of that. Store GPS data and pre-downloaded maps. If maps or field data were preloaded, some tractors could continue to automated functions for a while. Mechanical functions, engine, hydraulic, and most traditional farming functions will still operate normally. What would stop working are cloud-based precision farming. Any data stored online like maps, crop health, soil analysis would be inaccessible. Remote access and automation. Many modern tractors like John Deere's AutoTrack require the internet to receive remote commands and software updates. Subscription-based features. If a tractor relies on a paid cloud service, John Deere, Operations Center, Climate Field View, those services would be cut off. Over-the-air software updates and dealer diagnostics and repairs. Yes, you're right, Ian, and that should worry people, and it should. They would have to get out. Yeah, I mean, I'm not real. I mean, we live in a big farming community, and I mean, we're not far from a John Deere. I didn't realize that they had the tractors that were kind of automated. I mean, I didn't realize how extensive it was. So yeah, they should be kind of worried about that if the internet goes down.
Mostly, we've got small farmers around here driving 20-year-old tractors.
Right. Yep. I mean, I know the guy that owns the land around me. I mean, they're pretty extensive. They've got some pretty big equipment, pretty modern equipment. I don't know that they have the internet connected or not, but yeah, I mean, big operations. I'm sure they've got them.
Oh yeah, the big commercial operations, especially.
Right.
I don't know as a lot of your family farms would have a lot of that.
Right.
So,
media and entertainment, of course. Physical media, books, and DVDs would come back.
My CD collection will be worth something.
Right. I know. I don't even know if I still have CDs somewhere. Hey, what's up, Enzo?
I've got to look. I don't really know.
Enzo said, for me, it would be the dread of having to take your paper check from your job and physically take it to the bank. Right. If you could even access it.
Yeah. If your bank was even working.
It'd have to be a local bank, really. I think that would be your best bet. You know, if it was a big, Bank of America or something like that, I think we'd have severe issues. But if you had a local bank, I think your chances would be better. But really, there's not a lot of local banks anymore. They're being bought out by regional banks or something like that. Obviously, we talked about the digital economy collapsing, but media and entertainment. People would have to go back to antennas, radio, which that's not a bad thing. I mean, how many people really watch TV anymore? I mean, it's all streaming. I don't think that would be a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, I used to, there's nothing wrong with an antenna.
No, except you have to wait for your show to come on.
Yeah.
You can't just say, hey.
I have kind of gotten used to, just instant gratification. Well, we only watch 1 or 2 hours of TV a week, or at least I do. On a good week, I might watch 3 if I have all weekend off, because I'd rather read.
Right.
But yeah.
But that's not a bad thing. Enzo said CB radio make a big comeback. Those days were hilarious. Yes, they were. I had one in my first car.
Yep. I still remember my dad's handle was Country Roads.
Impact on education. No, 1 for a copy. That's right. The impact on education, online learning would go away.
Oh, yeah.
Kids would have to return to school.
They'd have to hire more
libraries.
Teachers.
They would have to have textbooks. So they would have to go to school the old-fashioned way. They'd have to rely on books. I'm thankful my kids like books, so that's not a bad thing. And we've recommended time and time again, have physical copies of your books, because in the instance of an EMP or something like that, or the internet outage, especially books that have the knowledge you're going to need.
Absolutely.
Have them. Keep them.
You could get a digital copy of, if your computer still worked, even if the internet didn't work, you can get like Encyclopedia Britannica or something on CD probably still.
Probably.
Or a flash drive.
Yeah.
Back up your stuff on flash drives.
Yeah. Let's see. Scientific research and innovation. They use cloud computing, digital
AI.
archives, AI. That'd be gone. The AI thing would be gone, even though we're at the inception. I'm sure it would probably be somewhere when, if it ever came back. But let's see. You'd have to return to local communities and face-to-face interaction.
You have to go back to the grocery store.
Right. That'd be, for a lot of people, that would be tough to have that face-to-face dialogue. Even families, man. Have you noticed them? Like, you go to a restaurant or whatever, and a lot of families are just sitting there looking on their phones. They're not talking to each other. They're not. Exactly, Mark. People are so enraptured with their phone, and that's what they do. They don't carry on a conversation anymore, and that's what I love about this show and podcasts especially, is unfortunately they would go away, but they allow you the opportunity to have a conversation with somebody, even though we live 15, 20 miles from each other.
Yeah.
Or if Enzo jumps on with us or whatever. I mean, he lives over by Wichita.
Yeah, 130, 140.
Yeah, I mean, you can have the conversation like somebody's right there, and it's great. It's awesome. But the key is we're still having that conversation. People would have to learn to do that with their families. A lot of people would. Their friends, their families, especially, and I know we're harping on the younger generation, but I think they would be the most affected.
I really think so, yes.
As a whole.
You and I are just about the last generation to have grown up without the digital connection. Yep. I mean, I was in my mid-20s before the internet really became anything.
Oh, we could do that, dude. We need to try that. That's a good idea, Enzo. Live shortwave radio podcast.
I'm thinking about getting my ham
radios.
license.
We need to get some ham radios and have a shortwave podcast. That'd be cool.
It's not expensive.
Yeah.
It is really not expensive.
Let's see. I'm still here. I'm going to kick off for a second.
So there you go. For $120 plus your antenna and a power supply, you can have a ham radio. $35 for a license, $15 to take the test, and about $30 worth of study materials. So ham radio is really not a bad option for communication.
No, it's not.
So, it costs less than your cell phone cost,
right,
to set up a full ham radio with the right antenna. This radio here would have a good 100-mile range with not a very expensive antenna. And if you wanted to go all crazy, you could get quite a bit more. You start adding linears and all that stuff. It's not really that bad. And really, in a lot of situations, a ham system runs on 12 volts. So you could use a solar generator or whatever to run it.
Yep.
I figured it up the other day, for less than $300. I can get every member of my family a radio that they can carry with them or put in a bag.
Yep.
And then set up a base station where I can communicate up to 100 miles with them.
Yeah, and we've talked about doing that, with my family, having a radio in each vehicle. That way, if something were to happen, we have a way to communicate. The only downside with the new digital ham radios is if it is a CME or a solar flare or an EMP or something like that, chances are it's going to fry them. So you definitely want to have an old analog, the tube type ham radio, and those would be hard to find, or stored in a Faraday cage or a Faraday bag.
Faraday bag. They're inexpensive and easy to acquire.
Yep. For all that matters. Oh, excuse me. That time change is kicking my butt.
Same.
For all that matters, I mean, get you a big metal trash can, with a lid.
That would do a fairly decent job of protecting stuff.
It would. I've got an old 50 caliber, real tall ammo can. It seals and all that stuff. It would work.
I've got a bunch of the 30 caliber ones.
Yeah, I do too. Let's look at what we've probably already talked about it. But possible causes of a internet outage, something like that. And one is real. I mentioned a little bit ago the cyber attack thing. Definitely very huge possibility. Cyber warfare is a real thing, and I think,
and it's been happening.
That's what's going to kick. Yeah, that's what's going to kick everything off if something does go off. Solar flare, EMP, we've touched on. Look at the Carrington event. We've talked about it multiple times on the show. The Carrington event definitely was crazy to even read about. If you haven't read about it, I highly recommend going and reading about it to understand what happened. Telegraph wires were catching fire. It was a huge solar flare.
Yeah. Telegraphs were working without their batteries connected.
Right.
For hours.
It was late 1800s, if I remember right. Miners were waking up because it was so bright outside. They thought it was time to get up and go to work, and it wasn't. It was like early morning. Government shutdown. What if we have an authoritarian in control or an emergency action, something like that could shut the internet down.
1859, Phil.
1859, yeah. Technical failure, something, the whole infrastructure collapse or something like that. Um, I think depending on the situation, it could be reconstructed or turned back on, depending
Right.
on, the situation. But EMP, CME, chances are it'd take a while to rebuild and get it
Years.
back on there. Yeah. And I don't know that if during an EMP or CME or something like that, I don't know that the internet would be a priority to bring
No, it'd
back
be the main
because
grid,
you're going to have issues.
health services, emergency services. Those would be the main. Transportation.
And then how to prepare. What do you do? Or let's see what Ian said. He said, given the nature of social media, he'd hate to be desperate for communication or receiving a message back that said, "Ha, suck it, you lefty commie." I get that for sure. It just that's our society, though. I mean, either way, and as sickening as it is, I mean, it's still our society. I mean, it's up to us, I think, to control that narrative, to listen. But I don't know that I'm going to get a little political here. For most people, I believe there's common ground people can come together on, and I believe in a true emergency situation, I think people would pull together for the most part.
I think so. And I'm going to make a surprising comment. The younger generation that I've been talking to, most of them are surprisingly conservative. You're the 18 to 25ers have moved right. So it's generally the kids that's still in school or the older adults from like 30 to 40 where you're really finding the left leaners.
Yeah. And I know there's a commentator out there that's saying, he's like, man, I don't know there's anything left in common for both sides to even come together on. And in some ways I can see it, but I think the average American has a lot of common ground. Maybe not the people, maybe not the people, that are in the media, one way or another. But I think the average American, they do have a lot of similar values. It may not be the same values, but they can find common ground. And I think that's what needs to happen.
No two people's values are going to be the same. Yours and mine are fairly similar, but they're not exact.
No, they're not the same.
Everybody's different.
Yep.
And we should embrace that.
And we need to. That's how we take our country back. That's how we do it.
So, we're brothers and sisters, and we need to act like brothers and sisters. And it's okay for us to fight.
Yep.
But Mom needs to step in once in a while and whack the baseball bat up against the door frame and say, "Quiet your ass down."
Yep. Excuse me. Yeah. Let's talk about how to prepare for this. For financial preparedness, have cash on hand.
Cash, money metals.
Yep.
Silver, gold backs. Also, barter.
Right.
Be prepared to barter.
For sure. Physical cash, for sure. Have your important financial records backed up. Whether it be a flash drive or a bank book, which I need to take that advice because I haven't had a bank book in years.
Right, same here. Be surprised how much stuff you can fit on one of these.
Right.
I've got a 4 terabyte one coming in the mail.
Wow.
Yeah. Cost me $30.
That ain't bad at all, man.
That is not bad.
Communication. We've talked about ham radios. We've talked about CB radios, walkie-talkies, things like that. Here's one. How about a printed emergency contact list?
That is an excellent idea.
How many people know phone numbers anymore?
Not this guy.
I barely remember mine. Let alone, I barely remember my wife's. I don't know my 2 older sons' phones. I don't know their numbers. My little kids don't have them yet. But yeah, I don't remember phone numbers anymore.
My new planner has like 2 or 3 pages for writing down phone numbers. That's not a bad place to keep them.
No.
And despite the technology that I've got here, I have way more luck a lot of times with just a paper planner. And a lot of people still use them. And a lot of them do have either blank pages or pages that specifically for phone numbers. Use them.
Right.
What if you just get your phone your phone drops in a cement mixer and you lose all your numbers?
Right. Yeah, for offline knowledge storage. That's what it's on the internet. Yeah, and Enzo, he said he barely remembers his own, but he can remember his home phone number from when he was 10 years old. Haven't needed to exercise that part of the brain lately. Right. I still remember some of my friends' phone numbers and stuff like that.
I remember my mom and dad's phone number.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about, isn't it?
I should have tried to get it for my cell phone when we shut them down.
I mean, we've all had this conversation. I mean, I don't remember my numbers. I mean, people don't. It's right in your hand.
Yeah,
it's right there. You don't think about it. But for offline knowledge, we've talked about physical books on any skill you think you might need. Is it going to be a survival situation? I think in some aspects it may, because the supply chain is going to go down.
Oh, yeah.
If the internet goes out, the supply chain goes down. In my opinion, this whole scenario that we're talking about is going to be like a soft EMP.
Yeah, you'll still have your refrigerator and all that stuff. Anything that you've saved on a disk or something.
Yep.
But you're not going to have access to all your stuff you've got stored in the cloud.
Right.
You're not going to be able to stream music or movies or.
I don't use a lot of cloud storage. Because I don't know why. I just don't want to pay for it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that information and stuff is going to be out the window. So you're still going to need to have the ability to access information. Even without the internet, the information can save you, survival books, preparedness books, medical knowledge, first aid knowledge. I mean, are people going to be going around, starving to death and all that? Possibility.
Especially in the metro areas.
Right. And I truly believe, I mean, like we talked about earlier, the rioting and all that is going to be more likely to happen in metro areas.
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to call the cops? All their 911 switchboards, I guarantee you they're hooked up to the internet.
Yep, for sure. Enzo's like, in this scenario of just losing the internet, the world would turn upside down for a few weeks. Then all the industry out there would have to revert to how they did things in the 90s. Yep.
It'd probably take at least a year to get everything back.
It'd take a while. But I think the heaviest impact right away for industry would be the supply chain.
Yep. And so many companies have gone to half their businesses online. Macy's. Right. Of course, that could save some of those big chains that's been struggling. Kmart might come back,
Right.
I miss Kmart. I like Kmart.
I did too. Back up important digital files. which, even again, I mean, any files I have that are important are probably on my phone.
Right.
In reality, I mean, sure, I'm on a PC right now, but I bought this just for the show.
Right.
I don't really have any important files on this computer. My wife may have some on her laptop.
Well, if it's just the internet, you should have a lot of your files still on your phone and be able to transfer them with Bluetooth.
Enzo said he was always a sucker for the giant popcorn machine at the front of the Kmart. Oh, yeah. Huge bag of popcorn. Yeah. Self-sufficiency. Everything we've talked about. Stockpile food, water, necessities. Strengthen your local community. And Mark and I, was it last year before, man, we were hitting community hard.
Yes.
Build your community. Always be building your community.
And it hasn't changed. The community is important.
No. And I think a situation like this would make you really go to the community or find a community. Security, we've already kind of touched on this. Develop your local barter system. It says protecting assets when electronic security fails, but I think that ties into your cash on hand, your barter system, all that. In closing, man, I mean, would the world be better in some ways? Let me ask that. I think it would in some ways.
You know what? People would actually talk to each other and listen to what they're actually saying instead of trying to flame everybody else on the internet.
Right. I think people would be more cordial to each other.
That's a good book for your shelves.
I bet.
My son's got one from the 80s.
I've got
a lot of that stuff still works.
I've got an old. I got one somewhere. I don't even know where it's at. It's an old Reader's Digest.
Yeah.
Book that it's about like that, but it's old Reader's Digest that my mom and dad had that somehow I got.
It's free on Kindle Unlimited, so if you keep it in your queue and the internet goes down, it's still there on your phone.
Yep.
So
Enzo said it would take away a lot of distractions for the world. People could go back talking face to face. Yeah, and I think there'd be a lot more respect because people have to think about what they're going to say instead of typing it out. Being a keyboard warrior, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't want to get this guy's fist in my teeth.
Right. So I need to, kind of hang back a little bit.
Well, the art of communication is almost dead, it seems like sometimes.
I think so. Absolutely it is.
I honestly think it'd be a great way to bring the people together. Because both sides would have to actually talk to each other.
Right.
The only problem with that is, mainstream media is going to latch onto that because a lot of people use the internet to do their own research, and mainstream media will probably take advantage of that.
I'm sure. Enzo's talking about us. He said all the online experts would have to revert back to being their true dummy selves.
I'll have you know, Enzo, that I never stopped being a dummy. I am still the dumb guy.
Right. Enzo said, yeah, the downside for sure. Back to watching the 6 p.m. news, right?
I'll just watch MASH reruns.
Ian said he often thinks of the manic street preachers lyric libraries gave us power from 1995. They really did, and we should.
Yes, support your local library. We have a good one in this community.
Yeah, I mean, how many kids know how to use a library?
I don't know. I don't even know if they still have card catalogs.
I don't know.
They'll have to bring them back if the internet goes down.
They would. And what's crazy is how many people would know how to bring a card catalog back if they don't have them.
They'd have to bring all the retirees in to set them up.
Yep.
Maybe a few colleges have still got people who know how to do it.
Yep. Let's see. As the audience, I mean, in the chat or whatever, how would you handle it? How would you handle the internet going out? That's right. Dewey Decimal System lives.
Well, not only that, it'll probably save lives.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
something to think about. You know, we talked food preparation, all that stuff. I mean, shameless plug. You know, think about food storage. You know, My Patriot Supply. You can use the link from us. You know, to help the show out. You know, don't forget we also have EMP Shield, Duke Cannon. I know I'm missing one. Buy us a coffee, all that good stuff.
I will play the ad before we get off here.
Sounds good. Why don't we go ahead and do that?
Yep.
Hey, this is Mark with What If Tomorrow and What If Tomorrow on the Fringe. Be sure to check out our website, whatiftomorrowmedia.com, and look at our cool merch. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, posters, and more. Our affiliates are Duke Cannon, EMP Shield, My Patriot Supply, and Conflicted the Game. Or check out buymeacoffee.com/whatiftomorrow and buy us a coffee. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and share on both Facebook and YouTube. It helps get our content out to others and help our channel grow. Now on with the show.
All right. With that being said, don't forget the next show. I think it's the 24th. Enzo said for a lot of people nowadays, chatting on the internet is their main source of interaction with others. Having to resort back to talking to a few people that live around you would hurt. I think you're right in some ways.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But it's a convenience thing. You know, people can feel safe in their homes or their rooms, whatever they're at. They can feel safe and still kind of get that interaction. But, you know, in my opinion, it's so much better to talk to people face to face.
Yeah. My kids hated going to Walmart with me because I would stop and talk to everybody.
Right. But yeah, don't forget the 24th is our next show. We're doing a show with listener/viewer comments, questions, things like that. So if there's something that you want to know or something you want to bring up, by all means, come out and hang out, watch the live, join the chat, which is more fun. You know, we love any interaction the audience gives us, but yeah, we love having people in the chat so we can bring up their comments, try to answer their questions on the spot. But the next show is totally going to be dedicated to questions from you guys. Because ultimately this show is for you guys. It's not really for us. Mark and I can do this anytime.
And we do.
We do. But also, you know, if you want to ask a question, you can't make the live or whatever, feel free to shoot us an email, message us on Facebook, you know, the What If Tomorrow media page or the What If Tomorrow podcast group. If you're on there, you know, there is a thread I started today. So on the What If Tomorrow media page, you know, go in there, comment if there's a question, whatever, and we'll make sure we read it the next time we get together on the 24th. Mark, I don't know if you have anything else, but
I really don't. Next week we're going to have an On the Fringe with Pam and Jess, and the subject is going to be almost as big a surprise to me as it is to you. I've actually got a list of stuff. I just need to email it out and see what we're going to do. So
They're good. But with that being said, guys, thanks for hanging out in the chat. We definitely appreciate it. We enjoy it. Where we at here? Here we go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll catch you next episode.
good night.